She poured her heart onto paper, writing letters to a love she'd never meet. He was a millionaire drowning in grief, closed off from the world. When her most private thoughts accidentally found their way to his doorstep, neither expected what would happen next.
Dear you, I don't know why I'm writing this letter tonight. I believe in the kind of love that doesn't need spotlights or fancy restaurants, just two people who see each other completely.
What started as a cosmic mistake became the lifeline he never knew he needed. But when fate brought them face to face in her small town, their worlds couldn't have been more different.
Your words made me look up for the first time in a long while. I don't know who you are, but thank you for that.
She was a simple florist with second-hand furniture. He was worth millions, still haunted by tragedy. When his sister discovers their connection, she'll stop at nothing to tear them apart.
I'm not for sale, and neither are my feelings for your brother.
I don't care about charity galas or social standing. I care about waking up each morning feeling alive again.
Can a love born from accidental words survive the weight of different worlds? Will a woman who believes in simple magic win the heart of a man who forgot how to hope? And when the ultimate choice between love and status arrives, what will they sacrifice for each other? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. The morning sun peeked through the old lace curtains of Celeste Warren's small apartment. At 27, she had already settled into a life that felt both comfortable and lonely at the same time. Her dark curls fell across her face as she bent over her work table, arranging a bouquet of white roses and baby's breath. Another wedding order, she sighed to herself. Being the only florist in the small town of Mapleton meant she handled every special occasion, especially weddings. Celeste glanced at the clock on her wall. It was almost time to open her shop, Blooms and Blossoms, just 2 blocks down from her apartment. She carefully placed the finished bouquet in the refrigerator and grabbed her worn leather bag. The morning air was thick with humidity, typical for June in this part of Georgia. As she walked, Celeste greeted Mrs. Johnson sweeping her porch and waved to Mr. Peterson opening his hardware store. Maple 2N was the kind of town where everyone knew your name, but not necessarily your heart. Celeste unlocked her shop, a small but bright space filled with the sweet scent of flowers. The bell above the door jingled as she entered, a sound that always made her smile. This place was her pride, saved for by years of working double shifts at the diner before she finally opened it 3 years ago. "Good morning, beautiful ones," she said to her flowers, a habit she'd had since opening day. Talking to her plants was easier than talking to most people. Plants didn't judge or expect too much. The morning passed quickly, with customers coming in for birthday arrangements and a young man nervously buying a single red rose for a first date. Around noon, her best friend Layla burst through the door, bringing the scent of the diner with her. "I brought lunch," Layla announced, holding up a paper bag, "and don't you dare say you're too busy." Celeste smiled. "I wouldn't dream of it." Layla, with her bright red lipstick and even brighter personality, had been Celeste's friend since high school. Unlike Celeste, Layla was bold, outspoken, and dated a new man every month. "So," Layla said, unpacking turkey sandwiches from the bag, "any exciting news? Any handsome strangers come in asking for roses for the beautiful florist?" Celeste laughed, shaking her head. "You know that only hap pens in those romance movies you love." "A girl can dream," Layla shrugged. "Seriously though, when was the last time you went on a date?" Celeste pretended to think hard. "I believe it was during the last ice age." "That's what I thought." Layla pointed her sandwich at Celeste. "You need to get out there. You're young, you're gorgeous, and you're hiding behind these flowers." "I'm not hiding," Celeste protested. "I'm just waiting." "For what?" Prince Che. "Arming to walk in and order a bouquet?" Celeste sighed. "I don't need a prince, just someone real, someone who sees me." Layla's expression softened. "Oh, honey, they're out there, but they wouldn't find you if you're always in here or at home writing those letters of yours." Celeste felt her cheeks warm. Her letters were private, something she'd never shared with anyone, not even Layla. At night, when the world was quiet, she would sit at her small desk and pour her heart onto paper. Dreams, hopes, and the kind of love she believed existed somewhere, just not for her. "Those are just for me," she said quietly. "Whatever you say," Layla checked her watch. "I gotta run, my break's almost over." She gave Celeste a quick hug. Think about what I said, okay? You deserve happiness. After Layla left, the afternoon dragged on slowly. By closing time, Celeste was tired, but remembered she needed to mail some bills before heading home. She gathered the envelopes from her desk drawer, including the phone bill, electric bill, and a rent check for her shop space. What she didn't notice was that among the bills was one of her personal letters, one she had written the night before in a moment of particular loneliness. Unlike her other letters that were safely tucked away in her bedside drawer, this one had somehow made its way into her shop papers. The evening air had cooled slightly as Celeste walked to the post office. Inside, Mr. Collins was just about to close. "Just in time, Celeste," he smiled. "Getting these out today?" "Yes, please." She handed him the stack of envelopes. "Sorry for coming in so late." "No problem at all. Anything for our favorite florist." Celeste thanked him and headed home, completely unaware that the letter addressed simply to the one I'll probably never meet was now in the outgoing mail pile. At home, Celeste kicked off her shoes and changed into her comfortable pajamas. Her apartment was small but cozy, filled with plants and second-hand furniture that she'd lovingly restored. On her kitchen table sat a framed picture of her grandmother, the woman who raised her after her mother died when Celeste was just 8. "Another day, Grandma," she said to the photo. "Nothing exciting to report." After a simple dinner of soup and toast, Celeste settled into her evening routine. She took out her writing paper and pen, ready to pour her thoughts onto the page. But when she reached for her special box where she kept her letters, she felt a strange sense of unease. Something felt off, but she couldn't quite place what it was. She shrugged it off and began to write, unaware that her most private thoughts were already making their way across the state. 3 days later, and 60 miles away, Adrian Hale S. sat in his massive home office, surrounded by windows overlooking manicured gardens that he rarely walked through anymore. At 30, he was one of the wealthiest men in Georgia, though few people would recognize him on the street. Since his wife Jessica's death 4 years ago, he had become something of a ghost, existing but not living. His assistant Marcus entered after a quick knock. "The mail, sir," he said, placing a stack of envelopes on Adrian's desk. "Thank you," Adrian replied without looking up from his computer screen. "Another day, another set of business proposals and charity requests." Marcus hesitated at the door. "Will you be attending the foundation dinner next week? They're expecting a response." Adrian sighed. The Adrian Hale Foundation, created in Jessica's memory, was his one connection to the outside world, though he managed it mostly from behind the scenes. "I'll let you know tomorrow," he said, knowing his answer would ultimately be no. It always was. After Marcus left, Adrian reluctantly reached for the mail. Bills, a few business envelopes, and then something unusual caught his eye. A simple white envelope with handwritten address, no return information. It was addressed to the one I'll probably never meet. Adrian frowned. It must have been delivered to the wrong address, but curiosity got the better of him, and he opened it. The H and writing inside was elegant and flowing, filling both sides of 3 pages. He began to read. "Dear you, I don't know why I'm writing this letter tonight. Maybe it's the rain tapping against my window, or maybe it's just that the silence in my apartment feels heavier than usual. I write these letters often, but they never go anywhere. They are just a way to let out all the things I wish I could say to someone who would understand. I know I'm nobody Specia L. I don't have silk sheets or champagne habits, but I believe in simple things. Sunsets, hands held too long, kisses that say more than talking ever could. I believe in the kind of love that doesn't need spotlights or fancy restaurants, just 2 people who see each other completely. Today, I helped a young man pick out a rose for his first date. His hands were shaking so badly I thought he might drop it. I wrapped it carefully and told him that honesty matters more than grand gestures. I wonder if she'll see how genuine his feelings are, or if she'll be disappointed it wasn't a dozen roses instead of 1. I hope she sees him, really sees him. Sometimes I wonder if anyone will ever really see me. Not just the florist with the friendly smile, but the woman who stays up late reading old novels, who still sends postcards to her mother's grave, who believes that love doesn't need to be perfect to be wonderful. My grandmother used to tell me that there's someone for everyone in this world. Not like in fairy tales, she'd say, but like in real life, messy and unexpected and worth every minute. I want to believe she was right, but some days it's harder than others. I've never told anyone this, but sometimes I stand in the rain just to feel something wash over me. Sometimes I dance in my kitchen at midnight. Sometimes I cry over commercials about coming home for Christmas. I wonder about you, the one I'm writing to but don't know. Do you look at the stars and feel small in a good way? Do you have a favorite song that you play when no one's around? Do you ever feel like you're waiting for your life to start even though you're already living it? I should stop now. These thoughts are just for me, words sent out to nowhere like wishes on stars. Still hoping, a heart looking for home. Adrian sat back in his chair, stunned. He read the letter again and then a third time. Something about the words had reached into his chest and touched a part of him he thought had died along with Jessica. He ran his fingers over the handwriting, feeling strangely connected to this unknown person who had accidentally sent him their private thoughts. The letter had no signature, no return address, just raw, honest emotion that he hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long time, Adrian felt something stir inside him. Something like curiosity, something like hope. Without thinking too much about it, he pulled out a sheet of his expensive stationery and picked up a pen. He hesitated, then began to write. To the writer of Midnight Thoughts, I don't know who you are or how your letter found its way to me. I don't even know if you meant for anyone to read it. But I want you to know that your words made me look up. For the first time, me in a long while. If I never hear from you again, thank you for that. And he addressed the envelope simply to the writer and used the same address that was on the envelope he'd received. He had no idea if it would reach its intended recipient, but something compelled him to try. Adrian called for Marcus. Could you make sure this goes out today? He handed him the sealed envelope. Marcus raised an eyebrow, but nodded. It was the first personal letter Adrian had sent in years. That night, Adrian found himself standing on his balcony looking at the stars. He wondered about the person behind the letter, their life, their dreams. For the first time since Jessica died, he thought about someone other than himself and his loss. Jessica, he whispered to the night sky, I think I felt something today. Is that okay? Only the distant sound of crickets answered him, but somehow it felt like enough. Back in Marpleton, Celeste was closing her shop for the day when Layla burst in, excitement radiating from her. You'll never believe who's coming to town, she exclaimed. Who? Celeste asked, only half interested as she counted the day's earnings. Adrian Hale. You know that super rich, super handsome, super reclusive guy who owns half of Savannah? He's coming to check out the old Willow property next week for some kind of foundation project. Celeste vaguely recognized the name. Isn't he the one whose wife died a few years ago? Yes, in that terrible car accident. He basically disappeared from public life after that. No interviews, no photos, nothing. But apparently he's considering turning the Willow estate into some kind of community center or something. That's nice, Celeste said absently, locking the register. Nice? It's huge. The whole town is buzzing. Mayor Thompson is planning a welcome reception and everything. Layla leaned on the counter. And guess who's been asked to do the flowers? Celeste looked up. Me? Of course you. You're the only florist in town, silly. Mrs. Thompson called the diner looking for you. She wants you to call her back tonight. Celeste felt a flutter of anxiety. I don't know, Layla. That's a big job. It's a big opportunity, Layla countered. Your flowers will be seen by one of the richest men in Georgia. Who knows where? That could lead. Celeste smiled at her friend's enthusiasm. To more flower orders, hopefully. Little did she know that fate was already weaving a more complex pattern, one that would connect her not just to Adrian Hale's business, but to the man himself, in a way neither of them could have imagined. As Celeste locked up her shop and headed home, the mailman was just finishing his evening rounds, placing a distinctive cream-colored envelope in her mailbow X, an envelope that would change everything. Celeste nearly missed the cream-colored envelope when she checked her mail that evening. It was tucked between bills and flyers, but something about its quality made her pause. The handwriting was strong and elegant, addressing simply the writer with her address below. "That's strange," she murmured, turning the envelope over. No return address. Inside her apartment, she set aside the bills and carefully opened the mysterious envelope. The paper inside was thick and expensive, nothing like the simple stationery she used for her own letters. Her eyes widened as she read the short message. "Oh my goodness," she gasped, dropping the letter onto her kitchen table. Someone had read her letter, her private thoughts that were never meant to be seen by anyone. Heat rushed to her cheeks as embarrassment washed over her. She grabbed her letterbox from her bedroom and frantically searched through it, counting the letters she'd written over the past months. That's when she realized one was missing, the one she'd written just a few nights ago during a particularly lonely evening. "How did this happen?" she whispered, trying to remember. Then it hit her. She must have accidentally mixed it with her bills when she took them to the post office. Celeste paced her small apartment, mortified. Her most private thoughts were out there, read by a stranger who had somehow managed to write back. She read the response again. "Your words made me look up, for the first time in a long while." There was something so honest about those words, something that made her pause. Whoever A was, they had been touched by her letter in a way she never expected. Before she could overthink it, Celeste sat down at her table and pulled out a fresh sheet of paper. "Dear A, I'm embarrassed to admit that the letter you received was never meant to be sent. It was private, just thoughts I write down when the world feels too quiet. I don't know how it found its way to you, but I'm sorry if my midnight ramblings were strange to receive. I'm curious, though. What did you mean when you said my words made you look up? And who are you, person who signs with just an initial? Cautiously curious, C." She hesitated before folding the letter. This was crazy, writing to a complete stranger. But something about this mysterious A made her want to know more. She addressed the envelope just as he had, with only an initial, and decided to mail it the next day. The following morning, Celeste called Mayor Thompson about the flowers for Adrian Hale's reception. "Nothing too flashy," the mayor's wife instructed. "Mr. Hale is known to be quite reserved since his tragedy. Elegant but subtle arrangements, I think." "I understand," Celeste replied, already making notes. "When is the reception?" "Next Friday at the town hall. His assistant confirmed yesterday that he'll be staying at the Mapleton Inn for 3 days while he evaluates the Willow property." After the call, Celeste couldn't help but feel a flutter of nerves. This was the biggest event she'd done flowers for, and for someone so important. She needed to order special blooms right away. On her lunch break, she dropped her letter to A in the mailbox before heading to the bank to discuss a small loan for the extra flowers she would need to order. 3 days later, Adrian was sitting in his home office reviewing documents when Marcus brought in the mail. "Another one of these," Marcus noted, handing Adrian a plain envelope with the now familiar handwriting. Adrian tried to hide his surprise. He hadn't really expected a response, yet here it was. He waited until Marcus left before opening it. The short note made him smile. She hadn't meant to send the original letter. That explained the lack of signature or return address. But she had chosen to write back, and that intrigued him. He reached for his pen and wrote back immediately. "Dear C, don't be embarrassed. Your accidental letter was the most honest thing I've read in years. What did I mean about looking up? Just that I've been looking down for too long. Your words about simple joys and midnight dances reminded me that life continues, even when we stop noticing it. As for who I am, just someone who needed to be reminded that genuine feelings still exist in this world. Someone who hasn't written a personal letter in 4 years until yours arrived. Would it be too forward to ask what C stands for?" A. Adrian sealed the envelope, again using only her initial and address. This strange, anonymous correspondence felt like a lifeline he hadn't known he needed. For years he'd been going through the motions of living, running his businesses, overseeing his foundation, existing but not participating in life. But now, he found himself looking forward to the mail, wondering about this woman who believed in sunsets and hand-holding. Who was she? What was her life like? The questions gave him something he hadn't had in years, curiosity about another person. "Mr. Hale," Marcus interrupted his thoughts, entering with a folder. The reports on the Willow property in Mapleton. You'll need to review them before your trip next week. Adrian nodded, taking the folder. Thank you, Marcus. Will you need anything else before I leave for the day? Adrian glanced at the letter he'd just written. Could you mail this on your way out? As Marcus left with the letter, Adrian opened the folder on Mapleton. It was a small town about an hour from Savannah, with a tight-knit community and a struggling economy. The Willow property was a historic estate that had fallen into disrepair, but it had potential as a community center and job training facility, exactly the kind of project the Adrian Hale Foundation focused on. He looked at the schedule for his visit, noting the welcome reception the town was planning. Normally, he would have Marcus make an excuse to avoid such events, but this time he didn't. Perhaps it was time to start looking up in more ways than one. Back in Mapleton, Celeste was in a panic. The special orchids she'd ordered for the reception were delayed, and she had less than 2 days to figure out a solution. Calm down, Layla soothed, watching Celeste pace around her shop. You've got plenty of beautiful flowers here. Not enough for all the arrangements I promised, Celeste replied, checking her phone for updates from the supplier. This is my big chance to make an impression, and everything's falling apart. An impression on who? The mysterious millionaire? Layla teased. Celeste rolled her eyes. On potential customers, Layla. This could mean more business for the shop. The bell above the door jingled and Mr. Collins from the post office walked in. Special delivery for you, Celeste, he smiled, holding out an envelope. Seems like you've got yourself a pen pal. Celeste felt her heart skip as she recognized the now familiar handwriting. Thanks, Mr. Collins. After he left, Layla raised an eyebrow. What was that about? Who's writing you fancy letters? It's nothing, Celeste tried to sound casual. Just someone I've been corresponding with. Since when do you have a mysterious pen pal? And why haven't I heard about this? Layla's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Because it's new and complicated. Celeste tucked the letter into her pocket. And I've got a flower crisis to deal with right now. Layla held up her hands in surrender. Fine, keep your secrets, but I want details later. She checked her watch. I'll get back to the diner. Call me if you need help with the flowers. Once alone, Celeste quickly opened the letter. She read A's words several times, feeling a strange connection to this unknown person. His question about her name made her smile. There was something freeing about this anonymous exchange, like they could be completely honest without the complications of real life. She wrote back during her lunch break. Dear A, C stands for Celeste. And now I'm curious, what does A stand for? It's funny how we can feel more honest with strangers sometimes than with people we see every day. I've never told anyone about my midnight dances or standing in the rain, but I told you, someone I don't even know. I'm glad my words made you look up. I think we all need reminders sometimes that life is happening all around us, even during our darkest moments. Today I'm dealing with a flower crisis. I'm a florist, by the way, and it feels like the end of the world. But then your letter arrived, and it reminded me that there are bigger things than delayed orchid shipments. May I ask what made you look down for so long? Ooh. Celeste. She sealed the letter, wondering if she'd crossed a line with her last question, but these letters had already created a space for honesty that felt rare and valuable. The next day was a whirlwind of activity. Celeste's supplier had found a P. artial replacement for the orchids, not exactly what she wanted, but they would work. She spent the entire day preparing arrangements for the reception, working well into the evening to make sure everything was perfect. By Friday morning, dark circles shadowed her eyes, but her flowers were magnificent. She delivered them to the town hall early, arranging each display with care. The mayor's wife was thrilled. These are absolutely beautiful, Celeste, Mrs. Thompson gushed. Mr. Hale will be impressed, I'm sure of it. Thank you, Celeste smiled, though her mind was more on her mysterious pen pal than on the reclusive millionaire everyone was so excited about. You're coming to the reception tonight, right? Mrs. Thompson asked. Celeste hesitated. I wasn't planning to... Nonsense, you must come see your beautiful work on display. Can't meet Mr. Hale, of course. He's quite handsome, you know, despite his tragic past. I don't have anything to wear, Celeste protested weakly. Wear that lovely blue dress you had on at the Christmas festival. It brings out your eyes." Mrs. Thompson patted her arm. 7 o'clock, don't be late." Celeste sighed as she left the town hall. She had planned to spend the evening writing another letter to A, but now she was apparently going to a reception for Adrian Hale instead. That afternoon, Adrian arrived at the Mapleton Inn. The small town was charming, with its main street lined with old-fashioned storefronts and friendly faces. It had been years since he'd ventured into such a community setting, and he felt strangely exposed. "Your schedule, sir." Marcus handed him a printout as they settled into the hotel suite. "Site visit to the Willow property tomorrow morning at 9, meeting with the architect at 11, and the town reception tonight at 7. Adrian nodded, looking out the window at the town square. "I think I'll take a walk before the reception, get a feel for the place." Marcus looked surprised but nodded. "Of course, sir. The car will be ready at 6:30 to take you to the town hall." Once alone, Adrian changed into more casual clothes, still expensive but less formal than his usual business attire. He slipped out of the hotel, enjoying the anonymity of being in a place where few would recognize him. He strolled down Main Street, taking in the small businesses, a hardware store, a diner, a bookshop. When he passed a flower shop called Blooms and Blossoms, he paused, drawn by the colorful display in the window. Inside, a young woman was frantically searching through drawers behind the counter, muttering to herself. She was pretty in a natural way, with dark curly hair pulled back into a messy bun and deep brown skin that glowed even under the shop's fluorescent lights. Without thinking, Adrian entered the shop. The bell jingled and the woman looked up, clearly startled. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "We're actually closed. I just forgot to lock the door." "I apologize for intruding," Adrian replied. "Your flowers caught my eye." The woman, Celeste, according to her name tag, smiled tiredly. "Thank you. It's been a crazy day, though. I'm supposed to be at this reception in an hour and I can't find my good earrings." Adrian felt an unexpected urge to help this stressed florist. "Perhaps I could help you look," she laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "That's very kind, but I'm sure you have better things to do than help a stranger find her jewelry." "Not really," he admitted. "I'm new in town, just taking a walk before an event I have to attend." She studied him for a moment, then shrugged. "Well, if you're sure, they're small silver hoops with tiny blue saint ones. I thought I left them here yesterday when I was working late." They searched the shop together, checking drawers and shelves. Adrian found himself enjoying the simple task and the company of this woman who seemed completely unaware of who he was. "So you're visiting Mapleton?" she asked as she looked behind some vases. "Business or pleasure?" "Business, mostly," he replied. "But it's a charming town." "It is," she agreed. "I've lived here all my life. Can't imagine being anywhere else, though my friend Layla thinks I'm crazy for that. Sometimes staying put takes more courage than leaving," Adrian said quietly. Celeste looked at him curiously. "That's an interesting way to look at it." Their eyes met for a moment, and Adrian felt an odd sense of connection. Then Celeste's gaze shifted to a shelf behind him. "There they are," she exclaimed, pointing to the small earrings sitting on a high shelf. "How did they get up there?" Adrian reached up and retrieved them for her. "Here you go." "Thank you so much," she smiled, taking the earrings. "You've saved my evening. Now I might actually make it to this reception on time." "Happy to help," Adrian replied, suddenly reluctant to leave. "What reception are you attending, if I may ask?" "Oh, it's this whole town thing for some millionaire who's considering building a community center here. Adrian Hale. I did the e-flowers, so they insisted I come." Adrian felt his heart skip. This was the florist who had done the arrangements for his reception. The coincidence struck him as both amusing and unsettling. "I'm sure your flowers are beautiful," he said, trying to keep his voice even. "I hope so," she sighed. "There was a whole orchid crisis yesterday. It was quite dramatic." She glanced at the clock on the wall. "Oh, I really need to get going. Thank you again for your help, Mr. Adrian," he said simply, not offering his last name. "Nice to meet you, Adrian. I'm Celeste." She shook his hand warmly. "Maybe I'll see you around town during your visit." "Maybe you will," he replied, feeling strangely off balance. "Enjoy your reception." As he left the flower shop, Adrian felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a genuine connection with another person. This woman, Celeste, had treated him like a normal man, not the wealthy, tragic figure everyone else saw. And then a thought struck him that made him stop in the middle of the sidewalk. Celeste, the florist, C, the writer of the letters. Could it possibly be the same person? The idea seemed far-fetched, yet something about her genuine warmth, her unaffected manner, reminded him of the letters he'd been exchanging with his mysterious pen pal. Adrian shook his head, telling himself he was being ridiculous. Mapleton wasn't that small. There could be several women with names starting with C. And yet, he couldn't shake the feeling as he walked back to the hotel. Meanwhile, Celeste rushed home to get ready for the reception, her mind still on the kind stranger who had helped her find her earrings. There had been something familiar about him, though she was certain they'd never met before. Something in his eyes, a sadness, yes, but also a warmth that had emerged as they talked. As she slipped into her blue dress, she found herself hoping her mysterious A had received her latest letter. There was something exciting about their correspondence, something that made her heart flutter in a way it hadn't in years. Little did she know that in just an hour, her two worlds were about to collide in a way she never could have imagined. The Mapleton Town Hall had been transformed for the evening's reception. Celeste's flower arrangements adorned every table and corner, filling the space with color and fragrance. White lights twinkled from the ceiling, and the town's best caterer had prepared an impressive spread of food. Celeste arrived a few minutes late, smoothing down her blue dress nervously as she entered. She wasn't used to being a guest at these events. Usually she just dropped off the flowers and left. "Celeste, you made it," Mayor Thompson's wife hurried over, elegant tea in a dark green dress. "And don't you look lovely? Come, people have been raving about your flowers." She guided Celeste through the crowd, introducing her to various town officials and business owners. Celeste smiled and nodded, feeling out of place among the town's elite in their fancy clothes and jewelry. "Mr. Hale hasn't arrived yet," Mrs. Thompson whispered, checking her watch. "His assistant called to say they're running a few minutes behind. I'm just dying for you to meet him." "I'm sure he's very nice," Celeste replied politely, though her mind wandered to the kind stranger from her shop. There had been something about him, a gentle sadness in his eyes that had touched her. "Oh, he's more than nice," Mrs. Thompson gushed. "He's brilliant. Built his architecture firm from nothing before he was 30. And after the tragedy with his wife, he's dedicated himself to helping communities like ours. Sook H, a generous soul." Celeste was saved from responding by Layla's arrival. Her friend had traded her diner uniform for a red dress that hugged her curves. "Look at you," Layla exclaimed, giving Celeste a quick hug. "That dress is perfect. Any handsome strangers catch your eye yet?" Celeste thought of the man who had helped her find her earrings. "Maybe one," she admitted with a small smile. "Really?" Layla's eyes widened. "Do tell." Before Celeste could respond, a murmur went through the crowd. The main doors had opened, and Mayor Thompson was greeting someone. "He's here," Mrs. Thompson whispered excitedly. "Adrian Hale has arrived." Celeste turned with everyone else to see the famous millionaire everyone had been talking about. Her heart nearly stopped. It was him, the kind stranger from her shop. He was dressed more formally now, in an expensive suit that fit him perfectly. But there was no mistaking, though. See eyes or that face. The man who had helped her find her earrings was Adrian Hale. "That's him," Celeste whispered to Layla. "That's the man I met at my shop earlier." "What?" Layla hissed back. "You met Adrian Hale and didn't recognize him?" "He didn't tell me who he was. He just said his name was Adrian." As Adrian made his way through the crowd, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries, Celeste found herself backing away. She felt foolish and embarrassed, said. She had chatted with one of the wealthiest men in Georgia, as if he were just an ordinary person. She had even put him to work helping her find her earrings. "I need some air," she told Layla, slipping toward a side door that led to a small balcony. Outside, the evening air was cool and refreshing. Celeste took deep breaths, trying to calm her racing heart. The night sky was clear, stars twinkling above the small town. She thought about her mysterious pen pal, A, and wondered what he would say about this situation. Would he find it amusing? Would he understand her embarrassment? The door behind her opened, and Celeste turned, expecting to see Layla. Instead, Adrian Hale stepped onto the balcony. "There you are," he said quietly. "I saw you slip away." Celeste felt her cheeks grow warm. "Mr. Hale, I'm so sorry about earlier. I had no idea who you were." Adrian smiled, and it transformed his serious face. "Please don't apologize. It was refreshing to be treated like a normal person for once." He moved to stand beside her at the railing, looking out at the town square below. "Your flower arrangements are beautiful," he said after a moment. "Everyone's talking about them." "Thank you," Celeste replied, still feeling flustered. "It's just what I do." "You do it very well." He turned to look at her, his expression thoughtful. "You said you've lived here your whole life." "Yes, my grandmother raised me here after my mother died." "And you never wanted to leave? See other places?" Celeste considered the question. "Sometimes I wonder what else is out there. But this is home. My grandmother taught me that roots matter. She used to say, 'Bloom where you're planted.'" Adrian nodded. "Wise advice, though sometimes I think people can become too rooted, unable to grow beyond what they know." "Maybe," Celeste agreed. "But running away isn't always the answer either." Their eyes met, and Celeste felt that strange connection again, as if they understood each other somehow, despite having just met. "Celeste," Adrian began, then hesitated. The balcony door opened again, and Marcus, Adrian's assistant, appeared. "Sir, Mayor Thompson is looking for you. The speech is about to begin." Adrian sighed. "Thank you, Marcus. I'll be right there." He turned back to Celeste. "I have to go, but I'd like to continue our conversation, perhaps tomorrow." Celeste nodded, surprised. "I'd like that. I'll come by your shop in the morning if that's all right." "Yes, that would be fine." After Adrian left, Celeste remained on the balcony for a few more minutes, trying to make sense of what had just happened. There was no denying the connection she felt with Adrian Hale, but it confused her. He was wealthy, sophisticated, from a completely different world than hers. And yet, talking to him felt somehow familiar and right. When she finally returned to the reception, Layla pounced on her immediately.
"What was that about?" "I saw you talking to Adrian Hale on the balcony," her friend demanded. "It was nothing." Celeste tried to downplay it. "He was just being polite." "Polite?" "The man who hasn't given an interview in 4 years sought you out for a private conversation. And you call that being polite?" Celeste shrugged, not ready to share the strange feeling stirring inside her. "He just wanted to thank me for the flowers." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Celeste listened politely as Adrian gave a speech about his foundation's S-work and his interest in the Willow property. He spoke well, with passion about creating opportunities in small communities. But Celeste noticed that his public persona was more reserved than the man who had talked with her on the balcony. By the time she left the reception, her mind was spinning with thoughts of both Adrian Hale and her mysterious pen pal. She wondered if A had received her latest letter yet and what he might write back. The next morning, Celeste opened her shop early, feeling nervous about Adrian's promised visit. She had spent extra time on her appearance, choosing a pretty yellow dress that her grandmother had always said brought out the warmth in her complexion. The bell above the door jingled at precisely 9 o'clock, and Adrian walked in, dressed more casually than he had been at the reception, but still impeccably stylish. "Good morning," he smiled, and Celeste felt her heart flutter. "Good morning," she replied. "Can I get you some coffee?" "I have a pot in the back." "That would be nice, thank you." While Celeste went to pour the coffee, Adrian wandered around the shop, admiring the various flowers and arrangements. When she returned with 2 mugs, he was studying a small potted lavender plant. "My grandmother always said lavender soothes the tea our oobled soul," Celeste commented, handing him a mug. "Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman. She was." Celeste gestured to a small table in the corner where she sometimes sat with customers to discuss special orders. "Shall we sit?" They settled at the table, and for a moment, neither spoke. Then Adrian took a deep breath. "Celeste, there's something I need to ask you." Her heart skipped. "Yes? Do you ... He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Do you ever write letters? Personal ones, I mean." The question took her by surprise. "Letters? Why do you ask?" Adrian's eyes held hers steadily. "I've recently been corresponding with someone. Someone who writes beautiful, honest letters about simple things, sunsets and midnight dances and standing in the rain." He watched her face carefully. "Someone who signs her letters with C." Celeste felt the color drain from her face. "You're she whispered. Adrian nodded slowly. "And you're C." Celeste set down her coffee mug with shaking hands. "But how? How did my letter get to you?" "I've been trying to figure that out myself." The envelope was addressed to one I'll probably never meet, with no specific address. Somehow, the postal service delivered it to my estate outside Savannah. "This is ... double quotes." Celeste struggled to find words. "This is impossible." "Is it?" Adrian reached across the table and gently took her hand. "Or is it something else? Something like fate?" The touch of his hand on hers sent warmth spreading up Celeste's arm. The connection she had felt with both the stranger in her shop and the mysterious A in the letters suddenly made perfect sense. They were the same person. "In your last letter," Adrian continued, "you asked what made me look down for so long. I think I'm ready to tell you if you want to hear it." Celeste nodded, her voice caught in her throat. 4 years ago, my wife Jessica and I were driving home from a charity event. It was raining. The roads were slick. His voice grew quieter. "A truck lost control on a curve. Jessica died instantly. I survived with only a few broken bones and a scar on my shoulder." He looked down at their joined hands. "After that, I couldn't design buildings anymore. I couldn't see the point in creating spaces for life when the person I loved most wasn't there to share them. I retreated from everything and everyone. The foundation became my only connection to the world, and even that I managed from a distance." Celeste squeezed his hand gently. "I'm so sorry, Adrian. For years I just existed," he continued, "until your letter arrived by some cosmic mistake. Your words about believing in simple things, sunsets and hand-holding and kisses, they woke something in me. They made me look up again." The intensity in his eyes made Celeste's heart race. "I never meant for anyone to read those letters," she admitted. "They were just a way for me to express feelings I couldn't share with anyone else." "I'm glad they found me," Adrian said softly. "Even if it was by accident." The bell above the door jingled, breaking the moment. An elderly woman entered the shop. "Oh, I'm sorry, Celeste. I didn't realize you had company," she apologized. "It's all right, Mrs. Davis." Celeste stood, reluctantly pulling her hand from Adrian's. "What can I help you with today?" While Celeste helped the customer select flowers for her daughter's birthday, Adrian moved around the shop, giving them space. His mind was reeling from the confirmation that Celeste was indeed his mysterious pen pal. The coincidence seemed too perfect to be random, that her letter would find him, and then business would bring him to our small town. After Mrs. Davis left with her bouquet, Adrian approached Celeste again. "I have to go to the Willow property now for a meeting with the architect," he said. "But I'd like to see you again. Would you have dinner with me tonight?" Celeste hesitated only briefly before nodding. "I'd like that." "I'll pick you up at 7. Perfect." After Adrian left, Celeste could barely focus on her work. Customers came and went, but her mind kept returning to the incredible revelation that Adrian Halley, wealthy, handsome, kind Adrian Halley, was her mysterious A. Around noon, Layla burst into the shop as she did most days. "Spill," she demanded, leaning across the counter. "I saw Adrian Hale's fancy car parked outside your shop this morning. What's going on?" Celeste couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. "He asked me to dinner tonight." Layla's jaw dropped. "No way. Are you serious? Adrian H. Hale asked you on a date?" "It's not exactly a date." Celeste tried to downplay it, though her heart said otherwise. "We just connected." "Connected?" Layla raised an eyebrow. "Girl, you've known him for what, a day?" "It's complicated," Celeste replied, unwilling to explain about the letters. That felt too private, too special to share, even with her best friend. "Well, complicated or not, you need to wear something amazing tonight. What are you planning to put on?" Celeste looked down at her simple yellow dress. "I don't really have anything fancy enough for a dinner with someone like him." "Then we're going shopping on my lunch break," Layla declared. "The boutique on Elm Street just got in some new dresses. One of them will be perfect for you." 2 hours later, Celeste was the proud owner of a beautiful deep blue dress that hugged her curves and made her feel both elegant and comfortable. It had cost more than she usually spent on clothes, but Layla had insisted it was worth every penny. "He won't be able to take his eyes off you," her friend had promised. The rest of the afternoon crawled by. Celeste closed the shop at 5 and rushed home to get ready. She took extra care with her hair, letting her natural curls fall softly around her shoulders instead of pulling them back as she usually did. At precisely 7 o'clock, there was a knock at her door. Taking a deep breath, Celeste opened it to find Adrian standing there, holding a single white rose. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes warm as they took in her appearance. "Thank you," she replied, accepting the rose. "So do you. Look handsome, I mean." Adrian smiled. "I've made reservations at La Maison in Savannah. I hope that's all right. It's about a 40-minute drive." "That sounds wonderful." The drive to Savannah passed quickly as they talked easily about Adrian's meeting at the Willow property and Celeste's day at the shop. There was none of the awkwardness Celeste had feared, just a comfortable conversation that felt like they'd known each other for much longer than a day. La Maison was the most elegant restaurant Celeste had ever seen. Crystal chandeliers hung from high ceilings, and the tables were set with fine china and silver. The maître d' greeted Adrian by name and led them to a privé table in a quiet corner. "This is amazing," Celeste whispered after they were seated. "Too much?" Adrian asked, watching her face carefully. "No," she assured him. "Just ... different from the diner in Mapleton." Adrian laughed, and the sound made Celeste smile. She had a feeling he didn't laugh often enough. Over dinner, the most delicious meal Celeste had ever tasted, they talked about everything and nothing. Adrian told her about his architecture FRM and how he had started it right out of college with nothing but determination and a few good ideas. Celeste shared stories of her grandmother and how she had taught Celeste everything she knew about flowers. "She sounds remarkable," Adrian said. "I wish I could have met her." "She would have liked you," Celeste replied honestly. "She always said you could tell a person's character by how they treat those who can do nothing for them. Like when you helped me find my earrings, not knowing who I was." Adrian's expression softened. "I think I needed that moment as much as you did. It was the first time in years I'd done something simply to be helpful with no agenda." As they shared dessert, a decadent chocolate creation that melted in Celeste's mouth, Adrian grew more serious. "Celeste, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" she asked, noticing the change in his tone. "I've decided to move forward AA to the Willow Project. The foundation will renovate the property and turn it into a community center with job training facilities and a public garden." "That's wonderful news," Celeste smiled. "The town will be so excited." "Yes, but it means I'll be spending a lot more time in Mapleton over the next year or so, overseeing the project." He reached across the table and took her hand. "I want to be clear about my intentions. I'm not just interested in you, B, because you're here and convenient. What I feel when I'm with you, it is something I never expected to feel again after Jessica died." Celeste felt her heart racing. "Adrian, we've only just met." "I know," he acknowledged. "But I also know that your letters touched something in me that I thought was gone forever. And when I'm with you, I feel like I'm waking up after a long sleep." His honesty took her breath away. "I feel it too," she admitted. "This connection between us, but it scares me a little. You're..." She gestured at the elegant restaurant. "All this. And I'm just a small-town florist with a tiny shop and second-hand furniture." Adrian's grip on her hand tightened. "You're not just anything, Celeste. You're the woman who made me look up again when I thought there was nothing worth seeing. The things you have or don't have mean nothing compared to who you are." Tears pricked at Celeste's eyes. "My grandmother always said that true connections are rare. That when you find one, you should hold on to it with both hands." "Your grandmother was a wise woman," Adrian smiled. "So what do you say? Can we see where this connection leads us? No pressure, no rush. Just two people getting to know each other better." Celeste thought of her quiet life in Mapleton, her small apartment, her flower shop. Then she thought of the letters she had written to a stranger she never expected to meet. Letters filled with hopes for a love she wasn't sure existed. And now here he was, sitting across from her, offering her a chance to find out. "Yes," she said simply. "I'd like that very much." After dinner, they drove back to Mapleton under a sky full of stars. Adrian held her hand the entire way, and they talked about everything from favorite books to childhood memories. When they reached her apartment, he walked her to the door. "Thank you for tonight," Celeste said softly. "It was perfect." "It was," Adrian agreed. "Though I have to go back to Savannah tomorrow for a few days." "Oh," Celeste tried to hide her disappointment. "But I'd like to write to you while I'm gone," he continued. "The old-fashioned way, with pen and paper." She smiled at that. "I'd like that too." Adrian reached out and gently touched her cheek. "May I kiss you good night, Celeste?" Her heart fluttered. "Yes." He leaned down and pressed his lips to hers, softly at first, then with growing warmth. Celeste felt as if the world had narrowed to just the two of them, standing under the stars, finding something neither had expected. When they finally pulled apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers, "Good night, Celeste." "Good night, Adrian." As she watched him walk back to his car, Celeste knew that her life had changed irrevocably. Whatever happened next, she would never be the same woman who wrote lonely letters to no one. Now, she had someone to write to, someone who would write back. 3 months passed in a whirlwind of letters, visits, and blossoming love. True to his word, Adrian wrote to Celeste whenever he was away in Savannah, and she eagerly replied. Their letters continued to be honest and deep, a tradition neither wanted to break, even though they now spoke regularly by phone as well. The Willow Project had broken ground, and Adrian was spending more and more time in Mapleton. He had surprised Celeste by renting a small house on the edge of town rather than staying at the hotel. "The hotel is fine for overnight stays," he had explained. "But if I'm going to be here regularly for the next year, I want a real home." What he didn't say, but Celeste understood, was that he wanted a place where they could have privacy, away from the curious eyes of the townspeople who still found their relationship fascinating gossip. Celeste's business was booming. After word spread that Adrian Hale's foundation had chosen her to provide flowers for all their events, orders had poured in from neighboring towns and even from Savannah. "You should hire some help," Adrian suggested one evening as they sat on the porch of his rented house, watching the sunset. "You're working too hard." "Maybe," Celeste agreed, leaning her head against his shoulder. "It's just been me for so long. I'm not sure how to delegate. Start small." "A part-time assistant, perhaps?" Celeste nodded thoughtfully. "There's a girl who just graduated from high school, Emma Wilson. She's always admiring the flowers when she passes the shop. Maybe she'd be interested." Adrian squeezed her hand encouragingly. "See? You already have someone in mind." This was what Celeste loved most about their relation's hip, the way Adrian supported her dreams without trying to take over. He offered suggestions, but never pushed. He respected her independence while still wanting to help her succeed. "How's Marcus adjusting to all your time in Mapleton?" Celeste asked, changing the subject. Adrian chuckled. He's still bewildered by small-town life. Yesterday, he complained that the coffee shop closes at 7. In Savannah, his favorite place is open until midnight. "Poor Marcus." Celeste laughed, though I noticed he seems to spend a lot of time at the diner when Layla is working. "You noticed that too?" Adrian raised an eyebrow. "I thought it was my imagination. Definitely not." Layla mentioned that he's been coming in every day for lunch. "Interesting," Adrian mused. "Marcus hasn't shown interest in anyone since I've known him." "Layla has that effect on people," Celeste smiled. "She lights up a room." They sat in affordable silence for a while, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Adrian's arm was warm around Celeste's shoulders, and she felt a deep contentment she had never known before. "I've been thinking," Adrian said after a while, his voice thoughtful. "About what?" "About us, about the future." Celeste's heart skipped a beat. They hadn't talked much about the future, both content to enjoy their present happiness. "What about it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice casual. "The Willow Project will take at least another year to complete. After that, double quotes, he hesitated. "After that, you'll go back to Savannah," Celeste finished for him, feeling a pang in her chest at the thought. Adrian shifted to face her. "That's what I've been thinking about. What happens when the project is done?" Celeste looked down at their intertwined hands. "I don't know," She admitted, "My life is here, my shop, my home. And my company is in Savannah," Adrian nodded. "It's a dilemma." "We still have time," Celeste reminded him, not wanting to spoil their perfect evening with worries about the future. "We do," Adrian agreed, "but I don't want to ignore reality. This isn't just a vacation romance for me, Celeste. I love you." Though they had been together for 3 months, it was the first time he had said those words. Celeste felt tearless.
Spring to her eyes. "I love you too," she whispered. Adrian cupped her face gently. "Then we'll figure it out. Together." The kiss they shared sealed that promise, full of tenderness and hope. The next morning, Celeste woke early to open her shop. She had a large order to prepare for a wedding that weekend, and she wanted to get a head start. Adrian had promised to join her for lunch later. As she worked on the arrangements, humming softly to herself, the bell above the door jingled. Celeste looked up, expecting to see her first customer of the day. Instead, a tall, elegant woman in an expensive suit stood in the entrance. "Good morning," Celeste greeted her with a smile. "Welcome to Blooms and Blossoms. How can I help you?" The woman didn't return the smile. "Are you Celeste Warren?" "Yes, I am. I'm Victoria Hale, Adrian's sister." Celeste's smile faltered. Adrian had mentioned his sister, a successful attorney in Atlanta who had helped him through the dark days after Jessica's death, but she had never met her. "It's nice to meet you," Celeste extended her hand. "Adrian didn't mention you were coming to town." Victoria ignored the offered hand. "He doesn't know I'm here. I came to talk to you privately." Celeste felt a chill at the woman's cold tone, but nodded. "Of course. We can talk in the back room." She led Victoria through the shop to the small office where she handled paperwork. It was nothing fancy, just a desk, a couple of chairs, and shelves filled with flower catalogs and supplies. "Please, have a seat," Celeste offered, gesturing to a chair. Victoria remained standing. "This won't take long. I'll get straight to the point. I want you to end your relationship with my brother." Celeste stared at her, stunned. "Excuse me?" "Adrian has been through enough pain," Victoria continued, her voice clip-edged. "He's finally rebuilding his life, focusing on his work. This distraction with you isn't healthy." "With all due respect, Ms. Hale, I think that's for Adrian to decide," Celeste replied, finding her voice despite her shock. Victoria's perfectly manicured hand slipped into her designer bag and pulled out a checkbook. "I'm prepared to be generous. Name your price." "My price?" Celeste repeated, incredulous. "You think you can buy me off?" "Everyone has a price," Victoria stated flatly, "especially people in your circumstances." Anger flared in Celeste's chest. "I'm not for sale, Ms. Hale, and neither are my feelings for your brother." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Let's be realistic. What future do you see with Adrian? Do you think you'll fit into his world? The charity galas, the business dinners, the social obligations? You're a small-town florist with no family connections, no education beyond high school, no social standing." Each word struck Celeste like a physical blow, voicing her own deepest insecurities about her relationship with Adrian. "You're out of your depth," Victoria continued. "Eventually, Adrian will realize that too. Better to end it now, before he gets too attached." "He's already attached," Celeste said quietly, "and so am I." "Infatuation," Victoria dismissed with a wave of her hand. "It won't last. Adrian needs someone who complements his position, who understands his world. Someone like Jessica was." At the mention of Adrian's late wife, Celeste felt a fresh stab of doubt. How could she ever measure up to the woman Adrian had loved and lost? "If you truly care about him," Victoria pressed, "you'll let him go. Let him find someone suitable, someone who won't hold him back." Celeste turned away, trying to hide the tears that threatened to fall. "I think you should leave now." "Think about what I've said," Victoria insisted, placing her business card on the desk. "When you come to your senses, call me. My offer stands." After Victoria left, Celeste sank into her chair, her hands shaking. The confidence she had felt in Adrian's love suddenly seemed fragile in the face of his sister's brutal assessment. What if Victoria was right? What if she was just a temporary distraction for Adrian, a novelty that would wear off once he returned to his real life in Savannah? The morning passed in a blur as Celeste mechanically worked on her arrangements, her mind replaying Victoria's words over and over. When lunchtime came, she couldn't bear the thought of facing Adrian with these doubts clouding her mind. She called him and made an excuse about a rush order, saying she couldn't break for lunch after all. Adrian sounded disappointed but understanding. "Dinner tonight then?" he suggested. "At my PLA's? I'll cook." "Sure," Celeste agreed, though her heart was heavy. "That sounds nice." After hanging up, she buried herself in work, trying to drown out the voice in her head that kept asking if Victoria might be right. Around mid-afternoon, the bell jingled again. Celeste looked up to see Marcus, Adrian's assistant, entering the shop. "Marcus," she greeted him, surprised. "Is everything okay? Adrian's not at the construction site today." "I know," Marcus replied. "I came to see you, actually." "Me?" Marcus nodded, looking uncomfortable. "May I speak with you privately?" With a sense of déjà vu, Celeste led him to the back room, dreading another conversation about her unsuitability for Adrian. Once they were seated, Marcus cleared his throat. "I apologize for the intrusion, but I thought you should know that Victoria is in town." "I know," Celeste replied tiredly. "She came to see me this morning." Marcus winced. "I was afraid of that. When she called asking for your shop's address, I had a feeling she was up to something. She made it very clear that she doesn't approve of me." "Victoria doesn't approve of much," Marcus said dryly. "She didn't approve of Jessica at first either." This caught Celeste's attention. She didn't? No, Jessica was an art teacher when Adrian met her. Victoria thought she was using Adrian for his money and position. It took years before she accepted her as part of the family. "I didn't know that," Celeste murmured. "Victoria is very protective of Adrian, especially since Jessica's death. But," Marcus added firmly, "she doesn't speak for him." "She said some things that—" Celeste hesitated, then decided to be honest. "That made me wonder if Adrian and I really have a future together. We're from such different worlds." Marcus smiled gently. "If I may be frank, in the 4 years I've worked for Adrian since Jessica's death, I've never seen him as happy as he's been these past 3 months. Before he met you, he was just going through the motions of living. Now he's alive again." Tears welled in Celeste's eyes. "Really? Really?" Marcus confirmed. "And for what it's worth, I think Jessica would have liked you. She valued authenticity above all else. It's what Adrian loved most about her." Celeste wiped away a tear. "Thank you for telling me this, Marcus." "Adrian doesn't know I'm here," Marcus admitted, "and he'd probably fire me if he found out I interfered. But I couldn't stand by and let Victoria poison what you two have built." After Marcus left, Celeste felt lighter. Victoria's words still stung, but Marcus had given her perspective. She decided to be honest with Adrian about Victoria's visit when they had dinner that night. At 7 o'clock, Celeste arrived at Adrian's Ronte D house, a bottle of wine in hand. The delicious smell of pasta sauce greeted her when he opened the door. "Something smells amazing," she smiled, accepting his welcome kiss. "My grandmother's recipe," Adrian explained, taking the wine. "One of the few things I know how to cook properly." The kitchen was warm and fragrant, with a pot of sauce bubbling on the stove, and a table set for 2, complete with candles and flowers. Her own, from the arrangement SHE had delivered to him earlier in the week. As they ate, Celeste tried to focus on the moment, on the man she loved sitting across from her, but Victoria's words kept intruding. Finally, after they had moved to the living room with glasses of wine, she knew she had to speak up. "Adrian, something happened today that I need to tell you about." He set down his glass, giving her his full attention. "What is it?" "Your sister came to see me at the shop." Adrian's expression darkened. "Victoria? She's in Mapleton?" Celeste nodded. "She came to tell me that I should end our relationship, that I'm not suitable for you." "She had no right," Adrian said, his voice tight with anger. "What exactly did she say?" Celeste took a deep breath and told him everything. Victoria's offer of money, her comments about Celeste's background and education, her assertion that Celeste would never fit into Adrian's world. When she finished, Adrian was silent for a long moment, his jaw clenched. Then, to her surprise, he knelt in front of her and took her hands in his. "Celeste, look at me," he said softly. "My sister doesn't know what I need or what makes me happy. Only I know that. And what I know, beyond any doubt, is that you are the best thing that's happened to me in years." "But what if she's right?" Celeste couldn't help asking. "What if I can't fit into your world?" "Then we'll create our own world," Adrian replied simply. "One where we both fit. I don't care about charity galas or social standing. I care about waking up each morning feeling alive again. I care about sharing my thoughts with someone who truly understands me. I care about you." Tears spilled down Celeste's cheeks. "I care about you too. So much." "I know," Adrian smiled, reaching up to wipe away her tears. "Which is why I want to ask you something important." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Celeste's breath caught as he opened it to reveal a beautiful ring, not ostentatiously large, but exquisitely designed, with a center diamond surrounded by smaller sapphires. "I had this made for you," Adrian explained. "The sapphires are the same color as the dress you wore the night we first had dinner together." "Adrian," Celeste whispered, her heart pounding. "I know it's fast," he acknowledged, "but when you've lost someone you love, you learn not to waste time when you find love again. Celeste Warren, would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife?" For a moment, Celeste couldn't speak. Her mind flashed to Victoria's cold assessment, to the differences in their backgrounds and lifestyles. But then she looked into Adrian's eyes and saw nothing but love and certainty. "Yes," she said finally, her voice strong despite her tears. "Yes, I will." Adrian slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that felt like a promise of forever. Later, as they sat on the porch swing, Celeste nestled against Adrian's side. She asked the question that had been on her mind. "What about after the Willow project is finished? Where will we live?" Adrian kissed the top of her head. "I've been thinking about that. What would you say to splitting our time between here and Savannah? We could keep your shop open, maybe with Emma running it when you're not here, and I could manage most of my business remotely, going to Savannah when needed." "You'd do that?" Celeste looked up at him, surprised. "Change your whole life like that?" "Celeste, my life changed the moment your letter arrived on my desk," Adrian said seriously. "Everything since then has just been me catching up to that fact." The next morning, Celeste opened her shop with her engagement ring sparkling on her finger. She couldn't stop looking at it, still hardly believing that she, Celeste Warren, small-town florist, was engaged to Adrian Hale. She had just finished arranging a display of fresh roses when the bell above the door jingled. Looking up, she was surprised to see Victoria Hale standing there once again. "Good morning, Ms. Hale," Celeste greeted her politely, though her heart was racing. "What can I do for you today?" Victoria's eyes went immediately to the ring on Celeste's finger. Her expression tightened. "I see my brother has made his choice." "Yes, he has," Celeste replied, lifting her chin slightly, "and so have I." Victoria sighed, some of the rigidity leaving her posture. "Adrian called me last night. He was quite upset with me." "I'm sorry about that," Celeste said, and meant it. "I know you're just trying to protect him." "He said the same thing," Victoria admitted, "right before he told me that if I couldn't accept you, I would be losing him too." She paused. "I've already lost one sister when Jessica died. I don't want to lose my brother as well." Celeste saw for the first time the vulnerability beneath Victoria's cold exterior. "You don't have to lose anyone," she said gently. "Adrian loves you. He wants you in his life. In our life." Victoria studied her for a long moment. "You're not what I expected," she said finally. "Is that good or bad?" Celeste asked. A ghost of a smile touched Victoria's lips. "I'm reserving judgment. But I will say this. My brother seems happier than he's been in years. If you're responsible for that, then perhaps I was too hasty in my assessment." It wasn't an apology, but Celeste sensed it was the closest thing to an olive branch that Victoria could offer right now. She decided to meet her halfway. Would you like some tea? I was just about to make some. Victoria hesitated, then nodded. Tea would be nice. As Celeste led Adrian's sister to the back room, she felt a sense of hope. Building a relationship with Victoria wouldn't be easy, but it was a start. And Celeste Warren was no stranger to nurturing things that needed time to grow. 6 months later, on a perfect spring day, the garden of the newly renovated Willow Community Center was transformed for a wedding. White chairs were arranged in neat rows on the lawn, and an arch of roses and baby's breath, created by Celeste herself, stood ready for the ceremony. In a small room inside the center, Celeste stood in her wedding dress, simple, elegant, and perfectly suited to her. Layla, her maid of honor, was adjusting the flower crown that replaced a traditional veil. "You look beautiful," Layla said, stepping back to admire her work. "Adrian is going to cry when he sees Yai." "Sure you think so?" Celeste asked, smoothing down the soft fabric of her dress. "Definitely," Layla assured her. "That man is head over heels for you." There was a knock at the door, and Victoria poked her head in. Over the past months, Adrian's sister had gradually warmed to Celeste, eventually becoming an ally in planning the wedding. "It's almost time," Victoria announced. "Are you ready?" Celeste took a deep breath. "Yes, I'm ready." As she walked down the aisle on that perfect spring day, Celeste's eyes locked with Adrian's. The love she saw there washed away any remaining doubts. This man, this kind, passionate, complex man, had received her letter by some cosmic accident and had written back, changing both their lives forever. When they reached the part of the ceremony where they exchanged personal vows, Adrian pulled a folded paper from his pocket. "Celeste," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion, "before I met you, I was a man who had stopped looking up. I existed in a world of grayscale, just going through the motions of living. Then your letter arrived on my desk, words never meant for me but somehow finding their way to the person who needed them most." He unfolded the paper, and Celeste gasped softly as she recognized her own handwriting. "You wrote, 'I believe in simple things, sunsets, hands held too long, kisses that say more than talking ever could. I believe in the kind of love that doesn't need spotlights or fancy restaurants, just two people who see each other completely.'" Adrian refolded the letter and tucked it back into his pocket. "I keep this with me always, as a reminder of the day my heart started beating again. Today I promise to spend the rest of my life seeing you, really seeing you just as you saw me when no one else did. I promise to hold your hand too long, to watch sunsets with you, to dance with you at midnight. I promise to love you with everything I am, in all the simple, profound ways you deserve to be loved." Tears streamed down Celeste's face as she responded with her own vows, promising to always write him letters, to remind him to look up when life got heavy, to love him completely and honestly for all their days. When they were pronounced husband and wife, and Adrian kissed her with all the tenderness in the world, Celeste knew that her grandmother had been right. True connections were rare and precious, and sometimes they began with a letter to no one that found its way to exactly the right someone. After the reception, as they prepared to leave for their honeymoon, Adrian pulled Celeste aside and handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it," he smiled. Inside was a letter, handwritten in Adrian's elegant script. "To the one I did me, Saturday marks the beginning of our life together, but in many ways our story began long before, with words on a page that were never meant to find me, but somehow did. Your accidental letter changed everything for me. It reminded me that life continues, that beauty exists, that love can find us even when we're not looking for it. As we start this new chapter, I want to make a promise. I will write to you for the rest of our days, not just when we're apart, but sometimes when we're together. Letters tucked into your purse, left on your pillow, hidden in your favorite books. Because some things are too important to trust to memory alone. Some feelings deserve to be captured in ink, preserved on paper, held in hands and kept close to hearts. I love you, Celeste Hale. Today and always. Yours completely, Adrian." Celeste looked up from the letter, her heart so full she thought it might burst. "I love you too," she whispered, standing on tiptoe to kiss her husband. And as they drove away to begin their new life together, tin cans rattling behind the car and their friends and family waving goodbye, Celeste held the letter close to her heart, a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with words never meant to be read, finding their way to the one person who needed them most.